Hey everybody, in this video in the AWS series, what I want to do is show you the Terraform that we're going to do next. And before we do that, we have to create, in the last video you saw that we had to create a transit gateway. So what we'll do is we'll create that transit gateway in the AWS infrastructure account. Let's see, so we're just going to open that up. So this is the way, using SSO, that we open it up. And you can see what happened was, it's going to ask me to sign in here. Alright, so give me 1 second to sign in, and I'm going to pause the video while I do that. Okay, I had to reset my password. Let's try this again. Infrastructure. Browser comes up. I'll allow it. And here we're in the infrastructure account. So go to VPC. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a transit gateway account in, make sure we're in Northern Virginia. Yep. And we're going to go to transit gateway. So we'll create a transit gateway. And we'll call this Chris Org US East 1 TGW. Okay, and that should be good. All these defaults will allow DNS support, equal cost multipathing support, default route table association, and default route table propagation. We don't need CIDR blocks for that, and that should be it. So we'll create that transit gateway. So now we have the transit gateway ID. So let's go back here to our transit gateway ID, where that's what we're looking for, this variable, and that is right here. So let's just go into here, click here, and we should be able to see that. And copy the transit gateway ID and paste that in there. And there we go. And there you see that where it has that little dot, that means it hasn't been saved. Control S saves it, or you can also save it on the menu, File, Save, or Control S, but those are the ways. Alright, so let's go into the main. We have a transit gateway. We have it in our networking account. It's inside of our infrastructure account. So that's our infrastructure account right there. Let's see if we can make this nice. Let's move that there. And then main TF. Okay. Alright, so we're in the main.tf, and you can see this is still pending, so it's got to build this transit gateway. Now it's available. Fine. Alright, so let's go into here, and we're going to start creating. So our resource, this is the keyword here, and we're going to call this AWS VPC. So that is the keyword in Terraform that tells it to build a VPC, right? So then what we do is in Terraform, you give it a name. So this is this is, we can call this anything. So we're going to just call this main VPC, and then we're going to go down here, and the CIDR block is going to equal our variable var.vpc CIDR. So there you can see right here, CIDR block, and then we're using that VPC CIDR that we created in the variables. So right here, VPC CIDR. So that's how that ties back to that. So we define a AWS VPC resource type, which is part of the HashiCorp AWS module, and we give it a name so that we can reference it later. So we're going to reference it as AWS VPC.main VPC. That will be our how we talk about it later. Then we'll create a tags block, and we give this so you can create tags easily here. Tags, and we're going to give it a name tag because that's important. And what we'll do here is we'll do $, and then var.base name, so that's our base name, and then we're going to do -VPC, so that's going to give it the name, and that's again using that variable var.base name, which is defined in our variables. So there we go. So if I hit Control S, I'll save that. So now we have our first resource created, right? Our first resource in the main. So now what we do is, if you go down to the terminal and we do a Terraform init, which we've already done. We don't need to do this again, but I'll just try to get this, try to remember to do all these. You don't have to do a Terraform init. You do it once and you're good until something is updated. So Terraform plan. So this is the command that will take what you have in your files and tell you what changes will be made to everything. So if we do a Terraform plan, and we're going to probably get an error here, right? So we get an error that our SSO credentials or session has expired. So that's what we want to do. AWS SSO login, and I want to log in to a profile, and I think that profile should be, let's see, let's find out what that is. It's the infrastructure one. So if I look at the properties for that, and the nice thing about this is, though, that once you're logged into AWS SSO, it logs you into everything that you have access to, like all the different accounts. So I'm going to copy this just because I don't want to type it again, and I'm going to type in infrastructure. There we go. Okay. So I think that is the command. Let's try it. What should happen is, yeah, that's what's going to happen, right? It's going to pop up. It's going to say, do you want to authorize this request? I'm going to say allow, and it's going to say, hey, you're logged in. Perfect. So it's exactly what we want. That's our default infrastructure administrator access. So now, since we logged in as that, that's going to come back to our provider. So our provider right here is US East 1, Infrastructure Administrator Access. Right, that's right. So that comes back to that. So now we do a Terraform plan. And let me bring this window up a little bit. So we do Terraform plan. And there you can see what's going to happen. So Terraform will perform the following actions. It's going to build this main VPC. 1 to add, 0 to change, 0 to destroy. You've got to be careful here, because if you're in production, if you make a change to something and it says 1 to change, 1 to destroy, or 1 to add, 1 to destroy, it means it's actually removing that object and then adding it back. which could cause some downtime while it rebuilds it. So be careful, make sure you know what you're doing when you change this, and make sure it says, this just says 1 to add. That's generally going to be safe. So next step, Terraform apply, and we'll run through this just because we have a chance to do this. Let's just do it. So it'll show you the same thing you saw with Terraform plan, and it's also going to say, are you sure you want to do this? Only yes will be accepted to approve. So we type yes, and it's connecting, it's going in, and it's connecting, it's done. So now if we go back here, so let's minimize this. Let's go back here. We created the US East one. Let's look at our VPCs. There we go. So we've got the AWS Control Tower VPC that we created. That's the default. We can get rid of that actually. Chris Org Prod VPC right here. And if we click that, so maybe we want another, let's say we want to change this, we want to add another tag, a created by tag equals Terraform. So we can add that. So that's a nice tag to have, maybe so we know what's created by Terraform. So I'm going to Control S, and now if I do Terraform plan, let's see what happens. You can see it's going to add a created by tag. So 1 to change. So it's not going to destroy it, it's just going to change it. Let's Terraform apply. We're going to say yes. And there we go. So now it's updated it. Let's take a look here. Let's refresh this. Let's go back into here. And let's take a look at our tags. So there you go. You got created by Terraform. And there's the name. Details. It's using the main route table. And main route table should just have this 10.200/16 in it, and that's it. Perfect. Okay, so that's it. We created it. We've got no subnets on that VPC. These are just the control tower subnets. And they are all private subnets. So all we've created is a VPC. So let's destroy this. So Terraform destroy. I'm going to say yes. And that should have destroyed our Terraform VPC. And there, our VPC is now gone. So easy to create, easy to destroy, very simple. You create the resource, you name it, and it's built like that. So the power of this is reproducible infrastructure. That's the real power, and that's what we're going to get into once you see the AWS subnets being built, which we're going to do in the next video. But that is just the basics of Terraform and doing infrastructure as code. So in the next video, we'll continue to build this out. We'll build subnets, and then eventually we'll get to the point where we're going to share this to the prod account. And I think that's, let me just double check that that's what our plan is. If we look at provider, yeah, we're going to share it out to the prod. So, all right, thank you for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.